Okay, due to my terrible handwriting, this is the third take on this. And I made mention in the last couple videos to this, that this guy wrote this to me. Now, I'm not completely neurotic, so I'm not going to go through all my videos and find out what the old video I referred to was that he wrote this on to find his full comment. But I responded to his comment through a video that I posted on the 7th of June, which means he wrote it on the 6th of June of 2019. So it's been a while. But, it stuck in my head, which, just proves that he was being a good little troll. But he had actually wrote it, the video is called "To Troll or Not to Troll." That is the question, or something along those lines. But anyways, this is what he wrote, and his name was Just Saying. He said, "You should be off the medication by now. It angers me to see that you're on YouTube talking about coming off benzos when here you are, still using them. It's your business to decide what meds to take, but stop pretending that you're trying to come off them. Some people are seriously trying to quit benzos and looking for good advice. Instead, all I hear is excuses as to why you are still using them." Okay, that was only part of what he wrote, but like I said, I'm not that neurotic that I'm going to go scan back through all the comments on maybe 100 videos before this to find his full statement. But I know he wrote more than that. I gleaned from the contents of that vid that I put up on June 7th of 2019. So, I call him out and say a few things to him. And the mistake that he made, he's easy to catch as a troll, because the mistake that he made is to say how disgusted he was with me in a video. I had like 200 videos at that point. So he writes this on an old video, but the only video he replies to, and it doesn't take him very long to find it, is one with troll in the title. So, that he was pretty easy to catch. But he wrote back, "I am not a troll." And then he goes on to say, "So let's say you're getting outside again. Do you think uh, your other life stressors will be gone too? Of course not. You'll just have a new problem that stops you from quitting taking this poison, and it will never end." Words of encouragement from Just Saying. But no, I don't remember the actual vid, but I could tell from the context uh, that it was posted like on June 6th, but that it was on an old video. It could have been on a video from 2018, because I'm coming up on 2 years of trying to quit since I was first forced into withdrawal. But yeah, anyways, put that aside. I had to write that out with a pencil because anytime I you know, switch the camera to where I'm not looking at myself, it shuts off automatically unless I put Task Manager up. I found out by accident, and that's how I was able to make that plumber cam. Is I just left the computer running with Task Manager maximized. Cause I'm not a computer guy or a tech guy. 52 years old, outdoorsman, trapped inside, and I'm not really interested in learning. If I'm going to learn about stuff, I'm not really that interested in technology, frankly. This is a nice outlet for me. This allows me to talk um, to myself publicly and to you, and to explore the depths of my twisted mind and whatnot. But uh, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I've been trying to quit, and I'm not like I've had other people accuse me of that like, you're not really trying. And it's like, okay, the word excuses has always been interesting to me because what's the difference between excuse and a reason? Think about that. How you're just making an excuse that you can't run in a race because you have a broken leg. You could hop, or you're just making an excuse about taking so long to get off of benzos. You have CRPS, and if you've had a few personal difficulties with your living situation, been sprayed with bug poison, you've had like meth trades and crack trades and interpersonal drama in your family and no support and stuff. But that's just that broken leg. Yeah. So I'm saying uh, an excuse for not doing something is just depends on what side of the fence you're sitting on. You know, you can make excuses about anything. It's like I don't feel very good today. I don't want to go to school like I used to do, and it'd be an excuse not to, or like, oh, I can always get around to this tomorrow. That's an excuse. Having an autonomic disease for 34 years is not really an excuse. It's just a fact, you know. An excuse, you kind of have to like have a little imagination. Um, an excuse, I guess, can be a fact. Like you might not feel like going to school, and you might feel a little under the weather, and use that as an excuse not to go to school. You're not really sick or puking or whatever. You just like, I just don't feel like myself today. So I think I'll stay home from school, you know. But it's just an interesting philosophical question, the difference between an excuse and a reason, or a valid reason, that it's taken me this long to quit. But I assure you, I have been trying. And yeah, and you might say, well, you shouldn't take that stuff so seriously, or that's just benzo sensitivity that you get when you're withdrawing or whatever. But I tried to the point where I was actually um, endangering my survival. Made a video of heart versus taper, which I didn't have any Valium, so I would just not take Xanax until I felt signs of arrhythmia. And you could call arrhythmia an excuse not to taper if you wanted to. They'll just take you into the hospital and shock you a couple of times. I think since I've been trying to quit, I've been cardioverted twice. Maybe one or both times I recorded myself while I was like, one of them just called Here We Go Again, where I recorded myself in arrhythmia, and then you can see that you know, unless I'm like really into the whole faking quitting thing, I have a hospital band. I have video of me from the hospital, you know, and then I have the tubes and the wires on me, so, you know, I don't have that kind of equipment, you know. I have actual video of IVs stuffed in my arm and, the cardiac stuff, but this guy wrote this before I made that video and whatnot. But see, the most important thing is the first line. You should be off this medication by now. And that's the big mistake that people make is like, and doctors as well, is like, which is a point that Heather Ashton makes. And everybody's different. Everybody has a different time frame. Everybody has different tolerance for the symptoms involved and different speeds they go at, and she allows for that. And like I said, she has windows where, like, give it like 3 to 6 weeks or whatever at this dose, just making up numbers. And but she has a window. She doesn't say 3 weeks. You should be ready. She has a window, where you, like, if you feel like you're ready. So there's no you should. There's no you shoulds involved in this whole benzo thing. It's all individualized. Um, uh, and today I bought a pill cutter yesterday, but it I can get them up for like 99 cents on the internet. So that this woman has sent out shopping for me because I still can't get outside, and walking is still dangerous. Spent like almost $7 for this pill cutter thing that I can just get one for 99 cents off the internet. And I'm like, well, I'll just get one for cheap off the internet. Keep the receipt. I'm not going to open this. And I just took this, which is just your standard, I guess, utility knife box cutter. And I cut a volume in half this morning. So I'm on, that's my first day. This was my first attempt at pill cutting. And I'm going to, even though, like, I've seemed to have gone up in anxiety because I have new things to do and new issues and new excuses, um, I'm still going to try to taper because at least I'll be doing something, you know. Um, One could say my new smile isn't just another excuse not to quit or not to taper. But you're gonna run into that with people. You might even run into that with people in your own family where they don't get it. They're just not gonna get it. That's why it almost takes a benzo person to know a benzo person. Um, like my caseworker guy, he admitted that he had an opiate problem. Now, I would have liked if we had time to ask him questions about that. Now, I just said, yeah, I've tried opiates before, but I was never really susceptible to them or never had a problem with them. Glossing over being addicted to morphine when I was 16 years old. But I mean, just like I get prescribed a bottle of, say, 20 codeine, or I had a bunch of Percocet or whatever. I could take them for a couple of weeks and then just be cool with not having them. And then benzos proved to be a different thing, but I would sort of like to explore that with him, like, you know, what his story is. But there wasn't time in the appointment, and there was less time even than I thought because he was like, this guy's threatening to kill himself. I gotta go. So it cut my appointment from, like, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes. I don't know what the appointment time was or how long he was supposed to be there. He just gave me a list and I showed him me playing music, and that was about it. The original point of that is lost to me. Like, I had a rough night last night where I just refused to go to sleep, and I woke up at 11:24. That shows you how late I was awake. I was awake till like 5 o'clock in the morning. And I didn't feel well yesterday, and I got this other excuse going on where yeah, I don't like to talk about that stuff, but sometimes I get like cramping and stomach cramping and stuff after I have a bowel movement. I don't know if it's the CRPS or whatever, but then, like, it's almost like I don't want to talk about it. I don't like to, I'm sorry, I just don't like talking about that stuff. But I was just having issues with stomach cramping and stuff, and then, like, I wouldn't eat. Then I finally ate and I felt a little better, and I still stayed awake. So I was just being a stubborn dick last night and didn't go to sleep. I just stayed up watching Anne of Green Gables. I guess they remade that because I was a big fan of. I don't mind saying this as a dude, but I was a big fan of like the show with Megan Follows playing the Anne character, or the production that they made of it, you know. And as an outsider, I guess it spoke to me a little bit because this girl's got this shitty life and she's an orphan and she's an outsider. And I'm never the kind of guy like that's a kid's book, or that's a woman's movie, or that's that. It's either there's types of things in this world, and that's good things and bad things. There's two types of music. That's good music and there's bad music, and there's two types of anything. So if it's good, I don't care what it's geared to or who it's for. The Lorax to me is a brilliant book, you know, and it's supposed to be for kids. So, anyways, I'm watching this series, just watching it and watching it and watching it. And I don't want to go to sleep. And then I cut pills, if you can call it morning, at 11. I woke up at 11:24, and we're gonna have a 70-degree day tomorrow, and on January, what's the 10th? January 11th, 70 miles from the Canadian border. We're going to have a 70-degree day. It makes no sense, man. None. And then I don't want, you know, the weather's crazy. I've known this for some time. When I was young, the weather was much more consistent, and you did not have 70-degree days in January in northern Ohio. Never, ever happened. And I've been following the Iranian thing a little bit because I don't follow politics or world events or anything like that, but just happened to notice, there's just apparently this president of ours assassinated somebody, and then this happened, and then there's missiles fired at our people in Iraq, and I was trying to sort it all out. It's just all a bunch of madness. Anyways, the point to this video is basically to tell you that I've lowered my dose. This is my first day trying it. And I don't know what percentage. Let's see. 20 minus 5. I'll leave you math geniuses out there to try to figure that one out, because I don't do numbers. I don't do numbers. I don't do time frames and time references. I have very good memory when it comes to the things that people say and do. But other things I can't remember, like this just saying dude on this paper over here. I remembered him. I remember things that people say to me and things in books. I can remember things in books from 30 years ago. Lines and stuff. But anyways, so we'll see how that goes. And it's already 2 o'clock in the afternoon here. So probably around 6 o'clock or so, I'll take the 10 milligram dose after taking 5 milligrams about a couple hours ago. And I think I need to do more physical activity, even though I'm trapped inside here. And I'm still pinching those pennies, obviously, because I was like $7 for a pill cutter. I'll use a utility blade. I actually did a fine job. So I put my phone on my chest and cut the pill on my phone, on the back of my phone, of course. And it left very little powder residue, and it didn't fragment or anything. I'm like, a utility knife did a fine job. I don't need a razor blade or anything like that to cut that pill. But no, that dude's like, I don't know what. more obstacles could be put in my place unless like I fell down and broke a leg or I don't know, close family member died. I don't know. Concerning the obstacles and all the madness. I mean, I've had three different kinds of locusts as a plague in the form of hornets, bed bugs, and roaches. Four, if you want to count squatters as inconvenient household pests. And then you know the stories. I mean, but yeah, this guy's. I noticed that on his reply, he might still be on there. So I'll check out his channel maybe for something to do. But thankfully, I'm not that neurotic or obsessive that I would actually go through all my comments looking to find out what he said, but just to see what his channel's about. And if he is, because he claims to be a fellow benzo person, he's like, I'm sorry you're going through this hell like I did. You know, he claims to be a benzo sufferer. Maybe I could just find, if he posts video, I could just ask him on a video. It's like, how are you doing with your benzo withdrawal? Or how is it being off of benzos? And see what he says. I don't know why I'm dredging this stuff up. It just popped in my head in a video I made in the last couple videos. I mentioned this, and it was a very long night last night. But yeah, I was talking about like when it comes to fiction, it's like I don't judge like if it's a good romantic thing or I remember being made fun of when I was in my 20s for watching Anne of Green Gables because it's a Megan Follows played the lead character, and it's like I don't know. I don't categorize things, so I don't know what you would call it. If it's a famous children's book or it's made for adults or whatever. It's just, to me, it's just good shit. There's just good and bad. So, you know, in this series, I was like, holy shit, is this? I never read the book. I was like, holy shit, is this more like the book? Because this is sort of like a horror story. Is this like stuff they added to stretch it out, the plot out? Because she's like being tortured by fellow inmates in the orphanage with a mouse, like a dead mouse rubbed on her face, and they're all holding her down because she talks too much. So you got any stories now? And stuff. And then there's references in there where she commits a faux pas. And these are spoilers, by the way. But she commits a faux pas where she doesn't understand. This is cracked me up. But there's this was in the Megan Follows version of it from a billion years ago, maybe 30 years ago. But there's a teacher that was romancing a student because back in the day, like you had like they only separated it into the really small kids and then the other kids. So there was a marriageable age student that the creepy teacher was perving on, and she peered in the window and she made some kind of comment about um, petting his mouse. And then I don't think she understood the euphemism, because she was like, yeah, she was recounting. She's a child, so she didn't understand exactly what was going on. And at first, all these snooty little girls were all fascinated by it, like, oh, you saw the teacher, like being intimate, as they called it, which they were just holding hands and looking into each other's eyes longingly or whatever, with whatever the student's name was, and they were all fascinated by it. And she goes, yeah. And one made a joke about, do you think she actually touched his mouse? One of the more worldly girls. And she was like, probably. And then she recounted her time because they would farm out orphans like as slave labor, and where she was working, taking care of this huge family of kids and stuff. And he said, when I was with the Hammonds, she said, uh, the father would get drunk on moonshine and then chase her around. And uh, and Mrs. Hammond said that every time she touched his mouth, she'd end up having twins. And and they were like, well, girls started to get a little bit disturbed, and then she was like, yeah, you would like chase her around, and then it was more like she was intimating that it was more or less like rape and whatnot. And she said it was hard to tell because sometimes they would be laughing, and then sometimes it would sound like he was murdering her. By that time they were like, you're a creepy, pervy little girl, and she didn't understand any of it, and she didn't understand sex or whatever. And, but yeah, that whole segment was funny and tragic at the same time. But no, I don't judge. Like I'm like, I don't care. Because I remember when I was, oh God, I must have been like 21 years old watching that show with when I lived with my brother-in-law above the Wig Style Center, and he was like, "What are you watching that for? It's boring." But he didn't call me a fag or anything for watching it. But I was like, "No, I like it. It's good. I've seen it before." And at the time, we didn't have any cable. The internet was still a dream at that point. I think it was 1991, 19 something like that, 91 or 92. Probably 92. Um, so, but anyways, yeah, still got the depression going on. Still, like I said, I'm gonna try this out. Like last night, I did have accelerated heart rate. You know, my heart's been kind of weird, so maybe not a good idea for me to try taking less benzos right now. But I've been at two for a while. It gives me a feeling of accomplishment when I can successfully reduce my dose, and I bragged about it like a moron and said like, well, like yeah, I cut 33%. I'm just taking two pills, and it's no problem at all. And then like after I said that, I started to have problems. I had these appointments to go to, and whatnot. That probably had something to do with that. But I started to have problems. Then I was taking my pulse. I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, and it was at 90. It should be in the 70s if I'm just laying in bed, not moving. I'm like, yeah, at least it's beating regular. And I was like, but I don't want to take any Valium for it, so I'll take a blood pressure pill because that blood pressure pill will lower your heart rate. And I took it like a minute later, and not a minute later, but sometime later, and told you I don't have much time since. And I was like, well, that's 85, and then I just didn't think about it. I don't think I bothered taking my pulse again to see if the medicine was working or not, but I was just experiencing some anxiety because my life is, well, I think for most people it would be utterly unlivable. Uh, yeah, I find it utterly unlivable, and I don't fear death, so, you know, other people would be only hanging on. I've seen people like struggle through like these horrible illnesses just to stay alive, and it's like death is an eventuality that we all have to accept. You think you're gonna get better? You think things are gonna get better? There's some illnesses and diseases that just get worse. And I try to remember what I was like when I was younger, or like even 10 years ago when I lived someplace other than here, trying to remember what that was like as compared to now, and it's really difficult. Like, how bad was I, or what I felt like? I mean, I can only remember the things that I was capable of doing. I can't remember how I felt day to day, how my legs felt, how the neuropathy in my legs felt, if I was in pain a lot. I don't remember at what point I could only lay on my back because I can't lay on. I used to be able to lay on my right side. I had two options for sleeping. I could lay on my back or I could lay on my right side. Then I would put a pillow between my knees because sometimes that would bother me my knees together. But now I don't. It's not comfortable for me to sleep on my side anymore. So I have one option, and you're looking at it. Uh, it's like I can't really remember what things were like as far as like I suppose it would be like that for everybody. Like you can remember things that you do, and you can remember that you felt better, but you can't really remember. Like I remember, like I would get up and I'd be like, oh, I think I'll kill some time fishing today, and I'd hop on a bicycle and do things that, frankly, today is incomprehensible, incomprehensible to me. Hop on a bicycle and ride a couple of miles and fish, and I would sit on the ground. I think even into my 30s, I wouldn't have a chair or anything. I would just sit on the ground. And I would like, oh, this would be torture for me now. Um, but yeah, and people do cling awfully hard to life. Um, maybe deep down, maybe it's like it's just in survival things in our DNA, or since we're, I'll just call ourselves. You can have your own opinion, of course. I can't stop you from that about what life is, what it means to be human, blah blah blah, all that philosophical stuff. I gotta stop blah blah blah. Sounds horrible when I do it, but you know, say you're just a self-aware animal. It's like your awareness of death means that somewhere deep within inside you, especially when you get close to it, you kind of realize that yeah, this is pretty much it. That doesn't mean I don't have something eternal inside me that I'm connected to, but this is pretty much it for Steve Barton. This is it. This is what the hand that you got dealt, and whatever's in you might move on, but then that's why you struggle and you fight and you stay alive, and when really none of it makes any sense. From a logical perspective, I should be put out of my misery and euthanized instead of going through all this. Because what am I actually going through? Um, like I said, the only thing I'm going to get out of it is the satisfaction of knowing that I did it. It's like I'm still going to be a miserable wretch. I'm still not going to be able to wear a shirt. The CRPS isn't going anywhere. I mean, I know the benzodiazepines made me take care of myself worse, but CRPS was a problem before I knew what a benzodiazepine was. Before I met Xanax, um, I had buku problems already, and yeah. So I don't know. I have called. Maybe I did that deliberately last night, so I had an excuse not to make any phone calls, and uh, an a real excuse, so I could be like, my head's foggy. It's already getting late. I haven't even drunk all my coffee yet, so I don't have to, try to call Dr. Cochran, who probably doesn't even know who I am, at this Tri-County place that referred me to the Medina County Cleveland Clinic, and tell him that he needs to fax his records to Omni Orthopedics. I've kind of done this song and dance before, and it didn't work out too good between two other orthopedists, and now I have to take that original orthopedist and see if they'll fax their medical records. And I already signed a form releasing all of my medical records, and it's like they didn't get that, you know. what happened with that. And that's where I made the mistake, is I should have just sent it through the mail, because I filled out the form and I was like, I had a very reliable, I had a couple of phone calls on it, but if you'll remember, I had that I had that video where I released all my medical records and I gave it to my most competent aid worker, and she took it to work and said she would fax it from work. And then somebody from I think the big boss or the big cheese from that company called, and they said that you're not a patient of ours. And I was thinking, why would a patient of yours send release forms for all their medical records? That would mean that of course I'm not a patient. You would already have my medical records and all my tests that you need to look at. So I don't like dealing with that kind of bullshit, because I've been bogged down in bureaucracy many times over this, and many times in general. But Monday, plus I got the depression to fight against, so um, you know, yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna get off here. Just make a nice little tidy video. I don't feel particularly coherent, and the depression's pretty heavy. And that was a bit of a shock when I called my friend, and he was like against the idea of moving into that place. Oh yeah, that's what I should have talked about. That is, I called him back, and I didn't recognize his voice. He didn't sound right. I was like, "Are you sick or something?" He goes, "I got some kind of head sinus thing going on." And I just told him, that conversation we had the last time we talked. I said, we can just forget about that. I was like, "You're one of the few people I don't have any friction with, so we might as well keep it that way." And he goes, "That's what I was thinking." You know, but I don't know what he was thinking. I didn't sound him out about like, what's your reasoning behind that, or why did you not want me to move in there? And I think he did mention something about the steps being a problem, but the thing that struck me about that is, like, I've told him a billion times that I live in a cell. I live in a 12 by 14 room, and he's like, the place is, it's just awfully small. And I'm like, is it smaller than the room I've been living in for a year and 5 months? You know, it's like, it's not gonna be small to me. And but really, I think the main telltale was when he said, "That's not the plan." I'm like, "Well, that's not the plan for you. You'd like to get somebody in there." Thinking to myself, I said, "That's not the plan for you. That's the plan for me, though." Meaning, you want to get somebody to stay there as long as possible, and I just want to stay there, as a stepping stone. And his reaction toward that, I did find, with I found, at least on the surface, selfish. I don't know his reasoning behind that, if he was trying to protect me or thinking of me falling down the steps. And of course, it's a bad fit for me. This is a horrible fit for me, though. So I just wanted to get away from here, and thinking maybe it would snap me out of my depression. But I made that phone call and I told him, like, I'm just going to work it out from here, figure something out from here. And so yeah, I did make that phone call. I didn't really talk to him in depth, like, why did you not want me living there? You know, because that might have been the root of it. It's simply, it's not advantageous to him to have me moving in there, because, like I tied it in with that other video, is people really, they can care about other people, but really, you care about yourself more than other people. You can delude yourself about that all you want to, but that's just, It's natural. There's nothing to be ashamed of there. Unless you want to take it to the Jesus Christ, Martin Luther King level and martyr yourself and get killed for the good of humanity. You care about yourself more than you care about other people, no matter what you tell yourself here. Um, you know, there's people that do self-sacrificing jobs, like cops, for instance, where they're putting themselves in harm's way and stuff. And, you know, but there's still, I've thought about this stuff thoroughly. And it's like, there's very few truly altruistic things that you can do in life where you're not getting paid back in some way. Like even when you're being generous to somebody, you're giving them something, you're getting something back because you're feeling good about yourself or you're feeling good. One of the few altruistic, truly altruistic things that you can do is to tell somebody what a stupid son of a bitch shit heel they're being and what a piece of garbage they are. Because you're not going to get paid back in anything but verbal abuse, you know. And that's sort of what uh, Jesus did in the Gospels, where he was like basically telling all the people in power the Pharisees and that they were pieces of shit, and you know, it's basically what he did, and that's basically why he got killed. Is he challenged the people in power, and yeah, anyways, but yeah, I put a lot of thought into that. I was like, is because I would examine myself and be like, well, you know, I'm giving this stuff to people and I'm doing this, but you know, but I am getting something back because I'm saying, well, it's building up my self-esteem. I'm getting something out of it, you know. So it's more about me than the actual, you know. Say like when I gave the TV to the war vet, you know, I was like, was I really doing that for him, or was I doing that for me? Was it really about me? It's like, cause I could feel good that I'm helping him out, and you know, um, giving him some form of entertainment other than sitting there looking at his phone and watching people murder each other on the internet and whatnot. But that's more philosophical stuff. In the morning while I'm still drinking my coffee, and my voice is just horrible this morning. It is morning to me still, since I decided to stay up late last night and chain watch a show that's probably created for, like, I don't know, hmm, teenage girls or women who are children at heart or whatever like that. I don't know. I don't know who that shows, what demographic they were shooting for. I think I'm talking about the show. When writers write, you know, it's like Stephen King always used to say, people would ask him, why do you choose to write horror? And he would just say, what makes you think it's a choice? You know, like you have a choice about what you can write. So when the person wrote the Anne of Green Gables book, um, she wasn't like saying, "Oh, I'm going to gear this toward little girls because of advertising." You know, it's just her and her little. She probably wrote it longhand. They didn't have probably even have typewriters when she wrote it. You know, but now with the marketing, they market things. That's why you have your PG-13 if movies where they don't want to make them R movies because you can get more money by making a PG-13 money. They're thinking about the money, and they're thinking about the audience they're trying to reach, etc., etc. So you know, I don't know who that was made for, but it's a good show. I think it's called Anne with an E. Um, but anyways, Yeah, as usual, I don't have much else to do but talk. I do have to start an exercise program of some sort, no matter how miserable I feel. Very important to do that. And last night was very stupid, staying up till 5 o'clock in the morning, even though I probably wouldn't have been able to go to sleep no earlier than 1:30, 2 o'clock. Even though my sleeping schedule was pretty good up until that point, I just wasn't. I had stomach cramps and stuff, and just didn't eat and didn't feel very well. Whether that's part of CRPS or who wants to start the anxiety machine and start thinking about other things that it could possibly be. Um, but yeah, so I guess I'll just get off here and let you know that I'm gonna try for a while, give it a couple of days and see what it's like. I'm not gonna risk my heart though. And, my heart starts getting like, if I'm starting to get those 90s in bed and stuff, and you know, tachycardia is something else. I mean, you can't call that tachycardia. You can just That's just anxiety creeping in on you when you're at your resting heart rate's around 70 to 75, and then you're just lying there and you're at 90, and you can feel the difference. You can feel the anxiety, and you can feel, well, at least I can feel I was like, my heart's beating pretty fast here. you know I don't know if other people have that, or in tune with their body to that degree, or at least their heart to that degree. But tachycardia is more like pop, 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 pop. It's like a real rapid heartbeat, and it's got to be at least 110. You know, to be a real tachycardia, in my opinion. I mean, I'd have to look it up, but yeah, I'll stick at go from 20 to 15 milligrams for a few days, and then I'll report back and tell you how, you know, tell you if I come up with any excuses to go back to 20. Any excuses like, I feel like I'm going to have to call an ambulance. Internet's a funny place. And I just spilled coffee on myself, so that's a good time to, I got to get a coffee mug. Since the War Vet broke my Browns mug, which was symbolic of their broken season. And I broke all my coffee mugs in here, and I had a couple of cool ones too, just from not being able to walk. I mean, if you got something, and this is something that hopefully you don't know, but there's a natural response in you when you go to fall where whatever you got in your hand, you just throw it. You just get rid of it so you have your hands free. It's pretty hard to like hold a coffee mug and then catch a counter at the same time while you're still holding on to the coffee mug, or gently set the coffee mug down while you're falling, and um, and then fall and then try to catch yourself. It's not how it works. You're like, oh, and you try to get rid of whatever's in your hand. I usually try to throw stuff far away from me, especially if it's heavy, so I don't trip over it. One time I had that the ghost cat or the white cat or OCD, or I don't know. Me and him have parted ways. He's proven that he can take care of himself. But I'm carrying one of these heater things. I don't know. They weigh at least 30 pounds. I don't know what they weigh, but they're oil filled. And I'm carrying it, and he decides this is a good time to reach out with his paw and grab my foot and trip me. So naturally, I throw the heater away from me. I don't. I think I controlled myself pretty good and didn't do nothing to him. I might have chased him outside, but I don't like to mistreat animals at all. Um, them being innocents and all. But I wonder how it was just one of them things that he would do sometimes where he would just have impulse control. He'd be walking by and he'd be like, "Hey, I want some attention." And reach out and grab your sock with his claws, and he did it while I was carrying this. You know, I can't. I probably couldn't even. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be able to do that now. So this was a while ago, and I threw it away from me to make sure I wouldn't land on it, and then it broke the chassis part to it, but I was able to repair it, and it still worked. I was like, man, you better not just cost me $50, you crazy animal. That was a crazy animal. Anyways, this is just meaningless chatter, and we'll see how I do, and see if I can keep the anxiety under control. And I still have things I have to do and life stuff I have to do, and I have no help doing it. Actually, I have the opposite of help. I have I really needed someone to talk to that one day, so I called my brother like 3 times, and he said, "Oh, I had my phone off." You know, it's like I kept my phone on for you for years while was that your beck and call while you were taking care of our mother? And so yeah, I'm kind of in this by myself. I have some troll support. I have some kind people like yourself that support me, and somebody always seems to at least give me one like. You know, sometimes I'll get as many as 3, and it will make my day. Uh, but I don't pay attention to that too much. It's just there when you click on the thing. You can't help but see it. And they have analytics on your video channel with the arrows going up and down. I just ignore all that crap. I don't care about any of it. Any more than I care what people think. People might think, man, you're fucked up watching Anne of Green Gables when you're a 50-odd-year-old man. And I was like, I don't care. It's a good show. You know, I'd watch Gilmore Girls if I thought it was a good show, or something that's geared for women, or something like Neil Gaiman, or however you pronounce his name. I've heard it pronounced both ways for some reason. But the guy supposedly writes books for children. He wrote Coraline. They made a movie out of it. I love that guy's books. I think they're made for kids, but I'm like, if I was a kid reading this shit, it would scare the fuck out of me. Because he's touching on some deep fears and stuff that, just like it's like Grimm's fairy tales. Nobody writes like that guy. So I gave the Graveyard book I gave to my niece, who's she's gonna hit the big 4-0 pretty soon. But I gave it to her. And I was like, man, check this guy out. Nobody writes like this guy. He writes fairy tales for adults. And I'm like, how can you start out a book and call it like a children's book? It's called the Graveyard Book. If this guy comes in with a knife and murders a whole family in the beginning of the book, I mean, how is that a children's book? They're like, noted children's author Neil Gaiman. And it's like that's the opening scene of that Graveyard book. I recommend that highly, because the guy reads his own work and he's fairly masterful at it, even though he makes mistakes and stuff. But he does it in front of a live audience, and you get like a live audience reaction. But he's very good. But he takes such great pleasure in reading his books, and it's a funny book, the Graveyard Book. It just starts out like on that. It starts out with like a mass murder. It's supposed to be a children's book. But yeah, it's on YouTube. I highly recommend that. I'll even put up a link to it. Um, just because the guy has such joy in reading his own material, and it's a funny book. And it's so quirky and unusual and odd. So if you don't know that name, Neil Gaiman or Neil Gaiman, unfortunately, they made one of his worst works, I think, American Gods, into a TV series. And they made that Coraline movie, which was good. And I listened to the book. I tried to find the book on YouTube the other night, as a matter of fact, for something to listen to, and I couldn't find it nowhere. But it's like, whoa, that's some horrifying shit, man. I mean, that's some nightmarish stuff you're talking about there. And there's some deep symbolism in there, too. Anyways, I'm done talking. My voice is starting to fail me, anyways. And that's almost an hour, but you know me. When it comes to talking, as far as length and duration, you can't beat me. I am a marathon runner. No, I'm just avoiding my own reality because it sucks. And it's my videos are just an excuse to avoid my own reality. That that's part of it. Part of it is trying to um, work through the twisted emotions that come with benzo withdrawal. And I have also twisted emotions that come from many other aspects of my life, including my early childhood. So, you know, just another therapy session. But check out that link, man. You'll get a kick out of that. If you like to listen to books and stuff, guarantee you'll like that. Uh, it's yeah, it's pretty cool shit. I loved it. I'll see y'all later. This is the Frog signing out. It's here, Wolfman Jack. Goodbye.